Any questions on the topic of Christ's Lordship and our allegiance to Christ as King?
No question. I think Stevie, you got a question?
But it's not on topic. You won't be surprised.
Go on, any questions, Steve?
Are you with child?
No, I'm just overweight. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Gluttony is a sin. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? When we celebrate the ascension of Jesus Christ, as we have done today, we are saying that there is no cause greater than His. There is no truth greater than His. There is no kingdom greater than His. No rulership greater than His. And we stand in His camp, in His army, against all comers, whether they are progressive militants called Karen, or whether they're called jihadis called Mohammed. We stand against them all in Jesus' name. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any questions on the topic of?
Any questions?
Remind the topic, Mozilla.
Any questions on the topic of Christ's Lordship and our allegiance to Christ as King?
No question. I think Stevie, you got a question?
But it's not on topic. You won't be surprised.
Go on, any questions, Steve?
Are you with child?
No, I'm just overweight. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Gluttony is a sin. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Any questions about the Christian faith, our beliefs, our values, our ethics, our customs, our history?
An on-topic question.
Go on.
There is so much, if not everything, in the Christian faith cobbled together from other older religions.
Okay, so Steve asks a question
What's the question?
that I suspect a lot of you may have heard.
Alright.
This idea that Christianity picked and borrowed from other religions
Virgin
and then
births,
brought it together.
Midwinter festivals, springtime.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is an urban myth.
It's a myth.
It's an urban myth.
Okay, explain.
It was populated by a YouTube video called The Zeitgeist.
They want the side, guys.
And ignorant people just believed what this YouTube video said. The fact is that any scholar that looks into this claim that Christianity has picked its doctrines by copying other religions is simply ignorant. The Christian faith, in answer to Steve's second question, is because Christianity is rooted in Second Temple Judaism of the 1st century. It is a Jewish offshoot that is rooted in Jewish beliefs, Jewish paradigms, Jewish doctrines, Jewish values, Jewish customs, and Jewish traditions. Steve, any other questions? Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Based on Judaism, which kind of backs what I was saying up, although I will go back further than that. There's stuff in Judaism that exists in much
Steve, I'm
older
taking
religions.
questions. I will come and debate you. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Don't let Steve hog all the questions. Go on.
Actually, Christmas is
What's your question?
a festival, not a
What's your
Judaic
question?
festival.
لا انت قول بس قول بس keep going
Okay.
More it's no
What's the question? Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? This is your last chance.
What is the
Any
Judaic
questions?
past of Christmas? Judaism's past of Christmas.
Sorry?
What is Judaic about
So the
Christmas?
question is Boris,
He doesn't want that.
try to answer it, try to ask it questions about Christianity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to say whether Boris Johnson or anyone else is a Christian. As a Christian, I believe Christ will be their judge. Any other questions about Christianity?
Judaic.
No, Christmas is not Judaic. Christmas comes from the church. And the reason why Christmas comes from the church is because Christians are permitted in the New Testament to honour any day as a day of celebration.
So was Christ born late December?
In the celebration of
Anyone
Christ.
believes Christ was born
And
late
Christians honour Christmas Day as a way of celebrating Christ's birthday.
December? Late December.
And the reason why they chose December the 25th
Why?
is because of a belief held by the church fathers that Christ had to be born and die. Sorry, that Christ had to be born and die on the same day. And so when you count forward from the time that Christ was crucified, you arrive on the 25th of December, and that was why Christians celebrate Christmas on the 25th of December.
But he died at Easter, did he not?
Yes.
So how's that the same day as Christmas?
Steve, I'm trying to take questions from others. Stop trying to hog. I will come and debate. I'll come and debate you, Steve.
Out that he was born the same
Any
day
other
as
questions?
Christmas, Easter, winter solstice, spring.
Any other question? Go on, brother.
Is there a pre-trib or post-trib rapture? I get confused sometimes.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, the question is about a Christian doctrine called the rapture. I want to say to you that this idea of the rapture is an American invention that is not older than 100 years old. It is a poorly formulated doctrine of the American church. It is not universally held by all Christians, and it was not held for 2,000 years. Churches that teach it, whilst they are still Christian, are teaching something that I believe is an erroneous teaching. There is no doctrine of the rapture in the Christian faith. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
So is it just chance that Christmas is based on the winter solstice and Easter based on the spring?
Okay.
Or is that just chance?
Let's just answer that question.
That'd be nice.
The winter solstice is not on the 25th of December.
21st.
It is
Close
before
Close
the
enough.
25th of December.
Close enough.
And the winter solstice was celebrated by Germanic pagans in Northern Europe. The Christmas date was established in the Mediterranean church centuries before its encounter with Northern Germanic pagans. So anyone who tells you that Christmas is based on the pagan celebration of the winter solstice is as ignorant as Steve.
Okay, let's try the devil.
Because
the devil.
the Christmas celebration was established before the 3rd century, and the Christians only interacted with the Germanic pagans in the 5th century. So it was centuries separated. Steve is just repeating urban myths. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Where did that come from? Horns.
Divine Trinity.
What?
Divine Trinity.
Define the Trinity.
3. There you go. Next question.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to define the Trinity, which is the central doctrine of the Christian faith.
Correct. One of.
One of. Is that
We Christians believe in only one God. If anyone tells you any differently, they are either ignorant or they are lying to you. They are either ignorant, like the Quran is ignorant, or they are lying to you, like Unitarians lie to you. Christians believe in only one God, but we believe that this one God has always existed as Father, Son, and Holy
No
Spirit.
females, you might know.
And this
All the women in
Trinity,
All men,
this
men,
Trinity
men. Misogynistic
is what we
patriarchal
Christians
nonsense written by men.
glorify
Women in it.
and worship, ladies and gentlemen. I'd invite you to move a bit
Where are
closer.
the women in this
I'm inviting you
bullshit?
to move a bit
Where
closer.
are the women
Don't
in
be
this
shy,
bullshit?
guys.
Why don't we
It means I don't have to shout my voice all the
Oh,
time.
you're very good at it, Bob.
Okay, any other questions,
Where are the
ladies and
women in
gentlemen?
this bullshit?
In the Trinity, yeah. Who's the women?
Apart from the surrogate mother, apart from the one surrogate mother whose womb God
So-
to borrow.
The question, ladies and gentlemen,
That question.
is hellfire Christian? The answer to the question is yes. Jesus Christ and his apostles all affirm the reality of hellfire. Hellfire is the place that upon judgment those who have rejected the mercy of God will go, and those that go there will receive the punishment due to their sin
Not much
of
mercy then, is there?
insulting the honour of
Not a
God
great deal of mercy in this
and
religion.
of rejecting
Follow
the
me or
mercy
burn forever.
that he has
This is
freely
not a
given.
merciful religion.
So yes, hellfire
mercy in this
is
religion.
Christian.
Bob,
Any other questions,
Bob,
ladies
there's
and
no mercy
gentlemen?
in
It's hell
Christianity,
hot.
Wapsila. Is that true?
Any, I'm not Tech Stevens trying to dominate, you're facilitating. Any other questions? Go on. Did you have a
It's
question?
hell hot.
Okay.
It's hell
Any
hot.
other
It's
questions,
hell
ladies?
hot.
So the question is, what colour was Jesus? I want to say to you that there is no term more insulting than to the dignity of us all than trying to categorise us by something as skin deep as our colour of skin. This is a modern practice of modernity that invented the idea of race and ethnicity.
He was given blue
Ladies
eyes
and
white skin
gentlemen,
according to the Bible. He's
ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
I don't care what the colour of Jesus Christ's skin was.
Why?
I don't believe that he was white like me, and I don't believe that he was black like an Ethiopian. I believe that he looked like someone who came from the Middle East, someone with olive tone skin.
Revelations.
But, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
a unique feature of the Christian faith is that every ethnicity represents Christ in their own ethnicity. If you go to an Ethiopian church, Jesus Christ looks like a black man. If you go to Japanese churches, Jesus Christ looks like a Japanese
Are
man.
you serious?
If you
I
go
don't
to a
believe that.
European
I do
church,
not believe that.
Jesus Christ
believe they were Japanese
looks like a European. If you go to a Native American church, Jesus Christ
There's no Japanese
looks
Jesus.
like an
That's
Indian.
taking the piss.
Why do we do this in our art forms?
Why?
Ladies and
Making it up.
gentlemen,
Why?
Christians do this in our art forms because Christianity affirms and elevates every person's culture. Is your culture African? Well, God says that your culture is equal to the Jews. Is your culture Anglo-Saxon? Well, God says your culture is equal to the Jews. Is your culture Jewish? Well, your culture is equal to the culture of the English.
Not all cultures are equal.
Unlike
We don't
Islam,
believe that.
that says
don't
that the
believe all
greatest
cultures are equal.
culture
Neither do I.
is the Arabic culture. And the best way to be a Muslim is to start imitating Arabs in what Muhammad did, because Muhammad was a 7th century Arab, and that's why Islam equals Arabization. But Christianity says that your cultures are all equal, and we are united in the confederacy of the church, in which we put the church before ethnicity, before nation, before race, before class, and we are united in our common discipleship in the Lord. Now, Steve, you can ask a question.
Yeah, go on, Stevie. We love you, Stevie.
Okay, is hell hot?
Is hell hot? Yes. Next question. Too late. Go
That's
on.
my next question.
The problem is not skin.
He's had more
it's
questions
sin.
than I have.
The problem not skin is sin.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
He's got
Why are
one.
there no women as main characters in
From
the Bible?
someone else. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? About Christianity, our beliefs, our ethics, our values. Any
Why did God
questions?
need Mary's womb for 9 months?
Go on.
Is it vital that we have to preach the gospel in the spare time?
Okay. So the question is, as Christians, is it vital that we preach the gospel? Yes, of course it is as Christians. However, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make it clear what I mean by this.
Explain it.
Preaching the gospel doesn't mean that you have to stand on a street corner and shout like I am doing in this park. In fact, I would want to suggest to you that the absolute worst way that you can preach the gospel in our culture today is standing on a street corner and shouting at people. When Paul preached the gospel, he went to the Agoria, a place where people had debates. He didn't stand on street corners screaming his head off with a microphone. Christians have fetishized people like John Wesley and the Spurgeons and Billy Graham. We have fetishized and projected in an ahistorical fashion the preachers of the 1700s back 2,000 years onto Paul. And it is wrong. Paul was a tent maker. He used to find employment and he used to preach through conversations. And so what I want to invite you to do, ladies and gentlemen, especially those of you who believe in preaching and you feel called to evangelize, get yourself a table. Make an appeal in your church for good second-hand books. Get yourself a sign to stick in front of that table and talk to people. Have conversations with people. Take them out for coffee. Build relationships. Invest time and energy. And encourage your church to be the kind of church that people feel welcome in coming into and enjoying fellowship in. That's how you preach the gospel. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any other questions on Christianity, customs?
Any other questions on our doctrines, our values, our ethics? Gone.
People like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Do we know who these people are?
Yes.
What are they?
So the question is, how do we know who Matthew, Mark, Luke and John are?
Alright.
The reason why we know is because church fathers like Polycarp, Irenaeus, Justin Martyr, thank you. They name these people as the people that write the Gospels. Mark was the interpreter for Peter, who then went and founded the church in Alexandria, Egypt. If you go to the Coptic Christians of Egypt, they will say that their cathedral seat, the seat of St. Mark, was established by the disciple Mark. The early church knew who these people were. Luke was a traveling companion of Paul. You actually find his name mentioned in the book of Acts. John was an apostle who knew Christ. Matthew was an apostle who knew Christ. And the early church knew who these people were and writes it down in their own traditions. And one of the reasons why we know this tradition about who these 4 people were is so incredibly early is because there is no dispute about it. If someone was just inventing it and making it up in some part of the world, then that would mean that someone else would be making it up in a different part of the world, and then these 2 traditions, we would see evidence of them arguing with one another about who Matthew, Mark, Luke and John were. But there is no argument in the early church about who Matthew, Mark, Luke and John were, and that shows that the early church was so small at that time, and the tradition was so early at that time, that there was never a room for a competing tradition to emerge. And that's why we know who Matthew, Mark and Luke are. Matthew met Jesus, John met Jesus. Mark met Peter, who met Jesus. Luke met Paul, and with Paul met Peter, James and John, who knew Jesus. So the isnad chains of the Christians are shorter than the isnad chains of the Muslims about their hadiths. If you look at the isnad chains of the Muslims in their hadiths, it's somebody told somebody who 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 heard Muhammad say. We're all supposed to believe these Chinese whispers. And there's lots of problems with Islamic isnad chains. Take problem number 1. Muslim Shia and Muslim Sunni can't even agree about which isnad chains are reliable. The Shia reject some of the isnad chains of the Sunnis, and the Sunnis reject some of the isnad chains of the Shia, and then the Muslims try to tell us, oh, the isnad chains are completely reliable if they're Sahih. But the Muslims can't agree what's Sahih themselves, so why should any of us believe them when they can't agree? Secondly, there are examples of individuals that appear in the isnad chain of a Sahih hadith that also appear in hadith that are not considered Sahih. So how could you have a name that appears in an unreliable chain also appearing in a reliable chain? Basically, are you asking a question? Because we're taking questions. Go on, if you want to respond.